Thank you. That was lovely. Sound check okay? Okay. Good morning, people.
Good morning.
I'm Trina Marlowe, and I'm delighted to be here as your liturgist today. Let's take a moment and share a smile with someone and be grateful for today's volunteers that are listed at the bottom of your service. Eliot can't exist without all of these great people, and they help make the magic that happens within and without these walls. 2 changes I want you to note today. Yvonne Serbel is today's representative from the Welcome team, and our live stream is going to end today right before the last hymn because we've been informed that we do not have the rights to publicize that. If you are new or newish to our community and want to connect and learn more, our greeters are happy to assist you. And if you're with us online, a special welcome to you. Please take a minute to go to our website at eliotchapel.org and submit a guest form so we can get to know you. After the service, everyone's welcome for coffee and conversation just out these doors to my left and in Adams Hall. And if you want even more connection, you can log on at 12:30 this afternoon for the virtual coffee hour. That Zoom link is on our website. 1 o'clock? Oh, okay. Let me make that change in my thing. Thank you. Here at Eliot, our vision is to create a just world through vibrant, beloved community. We live this vision by welcoming everyone who comes through our doors, no matter their beliefs, family structure, race, class, gender, or sexual orientation. As Unitarians, our flaming chalice is our most cherished symbol. The chalice bowl represents beloved community, and the flame is the spark of the divine that burns in each of our hearts. And Henry Husky is lighting our chalice today. Very good. Thank you, Henry. Now let us rise and body your spirit for our opening hymn titled Peace Before Us. After we sing, please remain standing, and together we will recite the congregational covenant in your order of service.
Verses 1, 2, 3, and back to 1. So verses 1, 2, 3, and then back to 1.
Peace behind us, peace
As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create a beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be, to listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart, to speak responsibly and respectfully, and to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends. Thank you. Please be seated for our wisdom story.
Good morning. I'd like to invite anyone who would like to, the young and the young at heart, to come forward for this time for all ages. Hi, good morning. Very briefly. All right. Today, we are looking at Buddhism, which has had a very, very big impact on Unitarian Universalism. So today's story is a Buddhist tale. It's got a very interesting ending. Just let you know. It's called A Man, Two Tigers, and a Strawberry. So once a man was gathering wood from the forest floor and he was all loaded up and he found himself eye to eye with a ferocious tiger. And he threw his load of wood at the tiger, and he turned and he fled as quickly as he possibly could, as fast as his legs would move. He wove through the forest trees, he dodged around boulders and jumped over thorny bushes with the tiger so close behind him, like a shadow, that he could feel the tiger's hot breath on his neck and the nick of a sharp claw right through his shirt. He came to the edge of a high cliff, and without a thought, he grabbed a thick vine and threw himself over the cliff and began to climb down the vine until he was low enough that the tiger could not reach him. He heard his own heart pounding furiously, and he felt so relieved to have escaped. And as he looked around to take stock of his situation, he glanced down at the ground below him, and there, with its tail snaking leisurely back and forth, sat another tiger, her eyes widely and intently fixed upon him as he dangled from that vine. And just then the man noticed the vine he was holding vibrating, and he looked up to see a pair of mice poised on a mouse-sized ledge, nibbling away at the vine. This was a truly desperate situation that was dawning upon him. And yet something shimmering and red caught his eye and made him investigate. He looked closely, and he found this luscious, plump strawberry growing right out of the crack in the cliff. And with one arm clutching the vine, he reached over with his free arm, plucked it, and it was the most delicious morsel he had ever tasted. And that is the end of the story. So, thank you. Yes. What? So let's think about strawberries as we sing you off to your activities for this morning.
receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
So this morning we are focusing on Buddhism and its impact on the way we practice, live, experience, and understand Unitarian Universalism. Meditation is a central practice in Buddhism, and today I'm going to be using a guided meditation prepared by Lauren Wyeth rather than a prayer. Now, I really believe in consent when doing something like a guided meditation because it's taking you on a very different kind of journey. And so if this is something you're not comfortable with, you do not have to do this guided meditation. You can use this time in another way. For those who do wish to participate, let's take a few moments to settle in and get centered. I invite you to be as comfortable as you're able. You may want to stretch or adjust how you're seated or shake out a little tension, whatever you need. Just try to give yourself a little bit more physical comfort if that's possible. And now I invite you to notice if it feels okay to pay attention to your body for a bit. To notice a place inside of you that feels like a center. And just breathe with your attention there, if you'd like. You might notice the presence of love at this center. See if it's there and breathe into it. With each in-breath, notice love at the center. And then I invite you to notice the edge of the out-breath, noticing love at the center of each in-breath, and then noticing the outer edge of each breath as you release. You might bring your attention to your own edges, finding a boundary that marks the edge of you. Perhaps it's your skin. Maybe it's a bubble of energy surrounding you. Perhaps it's somewhere inside, closer to your center. Wherever you find that boundary is okay. You can play with this practice, breathing, noticing what happens with your center and your edges as you stay with them and give them your attention. Sometimes our boundaries want to be pulled in close for protection. Sometimes they want to be big and spacious and roomy. Both needs are real and deserve our respect. as you attend to your center and your edges now. You might use your breath to help mark the boundary that is right-sized for this moment. And take a few breaths there. And when you're ready, I invite you to come back to our shared space and to notice again who is here with you. Each of us an individual with their own center and boundaries. Each one part of this larger collection of beloved companions. All of us part of a larger whole, with love at the center. We are so glad that you are here. Let us now take a time to speak the names of those who we would hold in our care. Those we have lifted up in this space are part of the larger whole with us, with love at the center. May that love hold them and us at this time. May all our days be filled with peace. Namaste. Please remain seated for our meditative hymn, 1031, May I be filled with loving kindness.
We will sing this 3 times. The first time with I. The second time, instead of I, we're going to say you. And the third time, instead of you, we're going to say we. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at peace. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be wise, full be wed with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Because of our collective generosity, Eliot can and does support the community around us. This month, half of our donations will be shared with the UU Service Committee's Community Accompaniment Program, which supports our faith organizations as they host and accompany individuals and families who are seeking to obtain legal asylum in the U.S. Since 2019, CAPAS, for short, has helped Eliot through the challenges and joys of hosting immigrants, including our current Honduran family. Let our giving reflect our commitment to this work. Because of our please join me in the dedication of these gifts with the words in your order of service. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Thank you. Today's reading is by UU minister and Zen Buddhist practitioner James Ishmael Ford. This is an excerpt from his book titled The Intimate Way of Zen, Effort, Surrender, and Awakening on the Spiritual Journey. He begins with a story. One day, Changsha went off to wander in the mountains. When he returned, the temple director met him at the gate and asked, "So, where have you been?" Changsha replied, "I've been strolling about the hills." "Which way did you go?" the director asked. "I went out following the scented grasses and came back chasing the falling flowers." The director smiled. "That's exactly the feeling of spring." Changsha agreed, adding, It's better than autumn dew falling on lotuses. What we tend to experience in our lives is how things roll, not in circles, but more or less in cycles. Great arcs with their mysterious origins and endings, but played out in their variety over the course of lives and history and onto much larger canvases than our imaginations can capture. Along the arc in its motion are points, endings and beginnings, sometimes autumn dew, sometimes scented grasses, sometimes birth, sometimes death. Of course, it's not all just a walk in the hills and a contemplation of spring and autumn. Here in Southern California, as I write this, there's burning heat. The heat of this moment is another reminder, another pointer if we are willing to let it be so. Teacher Ahe Dojin, who was a monk and key figure in the development of Japanese Zen Buddhism back in the 1200s, offered a challenge to these cycles. Firewood becomes ash, and it does not become firewood again. Yet, do not suppose that the ash is future and the firewood is past. Another point and another angle of the arc.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much for being our pianist today. What a pleasure to have you at the keys. So this summer, I went to visit my family, as I always do, for an entire week. I wait for this visit all year. My family lives on the northern shore of Lake Erie in southwest Ontario, Canada, and when I cross that Ambassador Bridge from Detroit into Windsor and make my way out of Windsor to our farm, I physically and mentally experience shifting into a deep sense of ease that I don't get anywhere else. The flat, flat, flat landscape, there isn't even a swell anywhere to be seen. The big open sky, the fields of green, the wind turbines that stretch as far as you can see, the lines of greenhouses, cattails in every ditch, and Lake Erie, which always tells you where is south. The lake air has this particular humidity, like not like here where it's heavy and oppressive and like you're walking into a blow dryer when you go outside. It's more like silk on your skin. And the smell is kind of like this faint fishiness with the smell of freshly washed sheets as you hang them in the sun to dry. And when I finally drive into the yard and the dog runs up and my parents come outside, it is just so good. My summer visits are often a week-long oasis where my cares simply wash away. And I do have to say, I don't think about you at all. You're not going anywhere. But this year was different. Without going into detail, because the details really aren't important, there was a circumstance that made this a more difficult visit. Not a relaxing, restful visit, but one with a lot of pressure and anxiety. And it wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't a life or death matter, but it happened. And it had the power to completely reshape the possibilities of the week. Has it ever happened to you? Right? Something you've been waiting and waiting and waiting for. You've imagined every moment, and then something changes. Well, something changed. And at first, I thought that I might be able to, if I worked hard enough and was smart enough and nimble enough, reclaim my oasis week. I grasped at anything within reach. Like in our children's story, sometimes I felt like I was holding onto a vine with chaos above and chaos below and chaos inside me. And when it became clear that my oasis was not going to happen, I got angry. I got resentful. I got bitter. But I also got really, really sad. A grieving kind of sad for what wasn't going to happen for me that visit. But as we moved through the week, I had this moment where somehow I was able to rise a bit above my mental swamp and recognize that I had to accept what was not going to be and be open to what was, because there was something there to be had. I had been holding onto the vine so tight, striving so much to get what I wanted, what I had set my heart on, that I wasn't able to see what was right in front of me. I wasn't able to see the strawberry. So here I was, sitting at the breakfast table with a beautiful view of the pasture glistening with dew. The kind of thing you see in a Hallmark card. That's what was in front of me. And my dad, as usual, had the morning paper and was reading out loud any news he believed we should all be very interested in. Been doing it his whole life. You could hear the water running in the fountain in the backyard. The smell of coffee hung in the silky Lake Erie air. And my mom was putting in the toast, and the birds were singing. And for just a short while, I rose out of the muck and I soaked in that I was still there. I was still at the table, still with my parents, whose presence becomes more and more precious as they age. My brother was in the shop fixing farm machinery. My nephew was on his way over because he'll find any reason to come over when I'm visiting. which is pretty awesome because he's 16. I thought he'd be over me by now. But he will find any reason to come over, and we delight in each other. So while there was no way that I could control the tiger above and the tiger below, couldn't I at least receive a few tender moments, those luscious strawberries within reach of the vine that was holding me? Today we're speaking about the influence of Buddhism on Unitarian Universalism, which sounds kind of dry, but it's not unlike the story I just told, where a light shone through the mists and brought us closer to home. Starting in the 1800s, Buddhism has had a growing influence on the experience of Unitarianism, and then it gained steam after 1961 when Unitarians and Universalists merged and created Unitarian Universalism. In 2007, about 9% of Unitarian Universalists claimed Buddhism as the path through which they lived their Unitarian Universalism. You can do that in Unitarian Universalism. You can be fully you and live our shared values through different paths, like humanism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, paganism, and Buddhism, and others. Too many to mention. The number of UUs connected to Buddhism grew to 25% if you included people who incorporated some of the teachings and practices of Buddhism into their lives but did not identify as Buddhist. Many Unitarian Universalist congregations have meditation groups. We don't have one right now, but we used to. And I bet we will again. I'm saying that as a challenge. The teachings of Buddhism and how we've understood those teachings have profoundly shaped how you and I are experiencing this faith. And that's true whether you've been Unitarian Universalist for years or you just walked in the doors today. If you've taken my UU Theology 101 class, some of what you're going to hear next is familiar. Reverend Rebecca Parker, a Unitarian Universalist minister and theologian, says that all religions answer the same basic 6 questions. And it's the answers to those questions that make each faith journey unique. And one of those questions is, what creates suffering and how do you end it? Every religion sees something inherently dangerous in the act of living itself and offers an answer to help us either understand the suffering, eliminate the suffering, endure the suffering, eliminate the suffering, or manage the suffering. To give you an example, if you grew up in a conservative Christian church, like Southern Baptist, for instance, many of us in this congregation grew up Southern Baptist, or Pentecostal, or Assemblies of God, what is the most dangerous thing about living? The most dangerous thing is wrong belief. Doing right things and good things is not enough to be saved from going to hell for eternity. You have to believe in Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. So in these traditions, it is belief that saves you. In Unitarianism and Universalism, right belief is not what saves us. In fact, both Unitarianism and Universalism rebelled against the traditional Christian answers about what caused suffering and how you protected yourself from it. The early Universalists said there was no hell, so you didn't have to worry about believing the right things. Universalists focused on the suffering that happened here on earth, a lot of which is caused by us. Trusting in God's infinite love and putting that love at the center of everything you do, that not only saved you from the hells here on earth, it could save others from them as well. Now, early Unitarians believed that God made us for goodness and gave us the ability to train ourselves through the teachings of the man Jesus to be moral and ethical human beings. Notice how I said the man Jesus. Right? We have not seen Jesus as God. Jesus was a man. He was a teacher. And by following the teachings and studying the teachings and praying with the teachings in mind, that is how you became more anchored in yourself and in the world and with God's intention for you. Now, this didn't end our suffering, but we could lift ourselves above it by anchoring in self-understanding and truth. When we thought about suffering, we thought about actions and thoughts more than beliefs. What were we doing to cause suffering, and how could we repair the damage? And this made us more open to the teachings of other religious and philosophical practices. What could we learn from other traditions to help us be good human beings, ready to address the suffering of the world? We want to know how to live well and how to bring about happiness and peace. And even as we have evolved from our Christian origins to become a pluralist faith, we still carry this understanding of suffering. Suffering happens mostly by us. I'm not talking about the suffering of the normal things that you suffer from, that just happen because life happens, the big stuff. The suffering happens because of us. And in our now pluralist religious tradition, we see the suffering happening when that interdependent web of life, somehow the different pieces of the web get severed. And we bring ourselves back into wholeness by recognizing that we are part of a larger whole with love at the center. And then when we start to repair the web around us and within us, that's how you bring about happiness and peace. James Ishmael Ford, he was the author of our reading today. He's a UU minister and a Zen practitioner, says that Unitarians and Universalists became open to the teachings of Buddhism because we share a deep valuing of the human condition and a focus on the here and now. In Buddhism, the cause of suffering and how you stop suffering is the central question. All of Buddha's practice and teachings revolves around this question. Sam Trumbore, another UU minister and Buddhist practitioner, says that in Buddhism there is one problem, and that is human dissatisfaction, suffering, misery, and unhappiness. All the other questions like, is there a God? Is there life after death? Are there truths that last forever? This is all speculation. Why waste our time on these questions? We should be focused on the present moment, not forcing answers or striving for absolutes. In Buddhism, the conditions of existence itself are the source of human suffering. Sickness, old age, death. The fear of these conditions, which none of us will escape, creates our suffering. And this fear can cloud our minds with greed, hatred, and ignorance. We often conflate what we want and desire with reality. So we are striving to end our fear, and all kinds of suffering comes from that striving. The practice of Buddhism is cultivating a sense of mindfulness, to come into a place of non-attachment to those things that we want so badly that we are unable to be present to life now. So let's go back to today's wisdom story. A man is being chased by a fierce tiger. He gets to a cliff. He grabs a thick vine, lowers himself out of reach of the tiger, and he is so relieved, believing he has evaded death. And then he looks down, and there's another tiger below, and 2 mice are chewing through the vine. He is going to die. Now, my guess is if it were you or I hanging off that vine, we would be looking for any way to save our lives, right? We would be striving for survival and looking for some twist of fate to save us from death. And indeed, the man is looking around in desperation for some way out. But then he sees this strawberry. And from a place of mindfulness, it mesmerizes him. And the tiger above and the tiger below and the chewing mice leave his mind, and he is no longer frantic. He is fully in the experience of eating that exquisite strawberry. That's what Buddhism is about. Letting go of striving and being completely in the moment. Buddhism offers a way of mental and physical training that can help you experience the cessation of the causes of your unhappiness. Now, just to be clear, I truly hope if that you were actually hanging on a vine caught between two tigers, that you wouldn't survive and enjoy a fabulous strawberry on the way. Just like the parables of Jesus in the Christian Gospels, the stories in Buddhism are not literal truth. They are teachings, and they invite you to lean in, to be curious, to be open. One of the reasons that Unitarian Universalists connect with Buddhism is that we have a similar approach. We love curiosity. We love questions. We want peace. We want peace inside and out. And we yearn for a world filled with compassion, where life is completely structured around our interdependence rather than our separateness. And it's not about the destination. It's not about perfection. It's about the journey. What will come, but we are focused on the journey. And so we are very similar in many ways to Buddhism. We also don't have a God at our center. We haven't for quite a while. We started out that way, but we shifted away from that when it became clear, often painfully so, that we were losing the sense of who we really are and what we could really offer if we clung to one way of being Unitarian Universalists. And Buddhists have a similar feeling. There is no one way to be a Buddhist. There is the Eightfold Path, which I'm not going to go into the whole Eightfold Path. It's everywhere on the web. You can find it. It's about the path. It's about what path you're on and how you're living it. And are you experiencing, do you have those moments where you experience the cessation of your suffering and can be completely in the moment that is right here, right now? So let's practice this with a situation that we all share collectively. What might this look and feel like for where we are right now? One thing that we are all sharing right now is that we're moving towards a general election. Yep, lots of anxiety, lots of inner suffering, lots of striving, sometimes lots of desperate hoping. There have been a lot of twists and turns in this election. In fact, the sermon that I gave 2 weeks ago is now obsolete. Thank goodness. But the stakes are still high. They always are. And we are in a struggle for the soul of the nation. Many of us are feeling like we're hanging on a vine with a tiger somewhere in the occasion. And it is a struggle between love and fear, between inclusion and exclusion, between democracy and authoritarianism, between anger and joy. And most of us, including me, are attached to a certain result. Deeply, deeply attached, right? How deep is that attachment? You cannot measure that attachment. It is so deep. And many of us are traumatized by the last 8 years in some way or another. We're afraid of what might happen if it doesn't go the way we want it to go, and we're suffering. Some of us a lot. So how does non-attachment work when the stakes are so high? Does it mean we shouldn't care about the results? Of course not. But how will we be right now, on August 11th, 2024, closing in on 11 a.m., when I know my service is going to go more than an hour? Okay? In light of the suffering that we are experiencing now and the suffering that we are afraid might come to us after the election, how do we anchor in this moment? What did you feel as you heard all of our reactions to the surprising end of the wisdom story? Joy? Surprise? Delight? What did you notice about your center during the meditation? How did you feel listening to Mary Nisler play Chopin so beautifully? What was it like to sing for peace or to put a few dollars in our shared plate? We're going to care very much about how this election turns out, but if all we're focused on is the result, we're losing perspective on why the result is important. We will be imprisoned in desperation and striving, and we will suffer unless we find a way to be present to the strawberries in front of us. As counterintuitive as it sounds, staying in the moment, immersed in the day that we are in right now, noticing the light as it streams through the windows, looking at our beautiful memorial garden as it continues to change and grow, hearing the small sounds that are always there when people gather, welcoming joy, friendship, hope, love, sadness, grief, and our coffee hour, which you may have just started thinking about. Not only will this help us stay focused and clear, it may even help to usher in what we hope will come to pass. In other words, as we move towards a pivotal moment, may we continuously delight in the strawberries as we do our part to see the results that we are hoping for. So may you be at peace, may you be at ease, and may you be whole. Namaste. Thank you. So our service is going to end a bit differently today, as you heard, because we don't have the rights to live stream the singing of Circle Round for Freedom. It's a more difficult song to get the rights for. So we're going to have our postlude first. And then we're going to extinguish the chalice. Then we'll say goodbye to those of you who are online. And then those of us here will sing Circle Round for Freedom.
quench this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you. And our closing hymn.
We are going to sing it twice. The middle line is the melody line. So let's listen to it, and then we'll join in if you'd like to sing.